So in the era of the fitness industry that overcomplicates every exercise and analyzes everything to within an inch of its life, with content done by experts who never did any of the stuff that they are telling you must do, you will get a 45-minute video that will mainly act to confuse you, to complicate things, to make your life harder. These people are not here to help you. They're there to keep you confused and watching for their next secret so they can get YouTube ad revenue. Well, that's not who I am. As anyone who's been following the Mr. Mike Israetel debate has realized, I'm right. I've been right for 2+ decades. I will continue to be right. So what I'm going to do is take some videos that I normally only put in my Facebook group, because honestly, they are the only people that I care about. And what I'm going to do is look at some very basic exercise techniques, things that I've learned over the years that actually work, things that I use with everyone that I coach, things that I use myself, things that will actually get you better results, because people who have done them get better results. But importantly, none of it is overcomplicated. None of it is moronic exercise advice involving fucking joint angles like the shit from Kasem over at N1. This is all basic biomechanics and applied lifting techniques that will help you get better results by better targeting the muscle. Importantly, I'll do it all in just a few minutes with each video. Because here's a good rule, guys. If you understand something, truly understand it, you can explain it simply. When you watch a video by one of these talking heads that's getting into joint angles and resultant torques and all that shit that I can absolutely bore you with, it's because they don't understand it. Or rather, it's because they're trying to get a 30-minute video to work the algorithm. Well, I'm here to help. Try these techniques. They're easy, they're quick, and they work. And then you can come back to the comments section and go, hey, you know what, Lyle? I wish I'd listened to you years ago. But you can listen to me now. Now let me make it real clear. Everything I'm going to talk about in this series of videos is for hypertrophy, muscle growth only. It's not to do with performance. It's not for powerlifting. That's a completely different thing. This is specifically for muscle growth. Okay, let's get started. All right, so I did chest, I did calves and lower body muscle. Now I'm actually going to start with the back, but I'm going to focus predominantly on mid-back and rows, because otherwise this video will be way too long. I'll talk about pull downs in a different video. But to understand some of this, I will have to talk about like the lats in terms of anatomy and function, but then I will focus extensively or exclusively on the mid-back. First, functional anatomy. The lats, obviously, big part of back, mainly gives you visual width. Then there's the mid-back. That includes the teres group, teres major minor, rhomboids group, rhomboids major minor. The traps, which people tend to think of as only here, is a major part of the mid-back. But the traps actually starts at the neck, sweeps down, and then down sort of into the low back. It's shaped like a trapezoid. Traps. I wonder where that came from. The traps is usually divided into multiple segments. 3 or 4, depending. I think I'm the only one who still thinks of it as 4. There's traps 1, that's the upper traps. Traps 2, which is right in the middle, think right between your shoulder blades. And then traps 3, which is at the bottom. Now, the traps as a general group does one thing that's the same and one thing that's different depending on the line of pull. So all of them are responsible to one degree or another for pulling the shoulder blades back, right? Like for doing, that. But depending on their line of pull, they also impact what happens to really the shoulders, but really the scapula, the shoulder blades, right? Which can do a whole bunch of different things. So the scapula can retract, they squeeze together, and they can protract and roll around the rib cage. They can elevate, they can depress, and they can internally and externally rotate. And these movements, especially like elevation is usually elevation and external rotation, and depression is usually depression and internal rotation. I'm not getting into that. Kasem can do you a 45-minute video on it. So upper traps, traps 1 pulls the shoulder blades back and up, right? That's a shrug. The mid traps pulls the shoulder blades pretty much straight backwards, right? It's got a horizontal line of pull, straight back. And then the lower traps, because it has a line of pull going low to high, if your shoulders are elevated, the lower traps will do that. And they'll depress and protract. They'll bring the scapula together. And again, make no mistake, like, they're all involved to one degree or another in those movements. But different line of pulls, as go ask fucking Kassem. He can draw it out on his little thing, and he'll show you how the torques and the lever arms and the resultants will blah, 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 blah. Upper traps, together and up. Middle traps, together. Lower traps, together and down. That's all you fucking need to know. Okay, you can also include the low back, spinal erectors. I consider those a core muscle. I'm not going to talk about those. Totally different video. So as far as the back is concerned, you can find tedious 1-hour videos explaining how this is how you bias, one of my least favorite words, you know, the rhomboid major outer fiber and the teres minor. You know what? Fuck that shit. None of you has back development good enough to worry about any of that. You just need a bigger back, and you won't get it doing the shit they're talking about. Those people are trying to confuse you. When I talk about back, lats, mid-back, the end. But they do different things. So the lats, there's two things primarily and one thing secondarily, right? So the lats adduct the upper arm, right? This is adduction. This is abduction. That's primary movement. They work in extension at the shoulder. So the upper arm is coming into extension, and that occurs in many different movements. Primary functions. They also are attached to the the shoulder blades, and as you set the shoulders, they actually activate to set the shoulder blades in place, which is something that was left out during all those bullshit Chris Beardsley, Paul Carter things about how the lats have no pull over 120 because of one cherry-picked study while we ignored the other one that used drawn lever arms across blah, 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 blah. The scapula weren't included in those studies, and they are involved to one degree or another in setting they activate right from the start of the movement. Morons. Don't listen to them. Listen to me. So again, lats, adduction, shoulder extension, and they depress the scapula. Mid-back, predominantly retraction of the scapula. That, and also, depending, it can be elevate the shoulders, keep the shoulders flat, down. That's all you need to know. But as I said earlier, despite having described lat function, I'm only going to function on rows in this video, or it'll be too long. It's already too long. I'll do lats in another video. I only brought it up because they are involved to a greater or lesser degree depending on the type of row variation you do. I'll get into that. All that said, I'm only going to be focusing on rows in this video, because if I try to do pull downs, it'll be way longer than I want it to be. Remember? Let's keep it simple. Most lat movements don't involve the mid-back much. Yeah, someone will be a pedant, well, but actually rhomboids minor. You know what? Get fucked. You know what I'm talking about. Predominantly lats on pull-down movements. For rows, how you do them will impact bias, they all work mid-back done properly, but elbow position will determine how much the lats are involved. And I'll talk about that a little bit. I will also talk about stupid fucking row variation. I'll get to only to say why I think it's stupid and why you shouldn't fucking do it. So again, this video is really going to be about the mid-back and rows and some technique tweaks some things you're probably doing wrong. Okay, let's talk about rows. And I'm going to use like the cable row as sort of a basic example, but the mechanics apply to any kind of row you're doing. T-bar row, machine row, dumbbell row. If you put a harness on your cat and do row, like it's all the same. To a first approximation, part of it is all the same and part of it is very different and will impact what's happening. So, general basic rowing, right? You've got a cable or some sort of resistance, again, whether it's a machine or a dumbbell and you're bent over or whatever. And what the mid-back is doing as you row is starting with the shoulder blades forward and squeezing them together. That's it, right? That's what the mid-back does. Again, traps 2 predominantly, but traps 1 are involved in that, and traps 3 or 4, depending on how old you are and how old of your anatomy book is, in my case. They're all working. It's just a matter of degrees. Again, I'll talk about some variations. Now, elbow position impacts how much the mid-back works in as much it impacts on how much the lats can contribute. So if you're doing any sort of row here, like a V-bar row, and pulling here, where your elbows are by the side. Okay, well, what did I say that is? That's shoulder extension. That involves the lats significantly. So here. Machine row, here, right? Anything where the elbows are by the sides. As you bring the elbows up to a high position, right? Think about like, you know, a T-bar row or like a lat pull down bar, and you're doing a row here. That, what the fuck? Okay, here, right? That will work the mid-back more. Why am I crooked? There we go. In as much as it takes the lats out of the movement, right? So it's simply more of, and also you'll be a lot weaker in that position because the lats aren't helping. And elbows in a medium position will be about half and half, right? Elbows by the side, mid-back and lats. Elbows flared, far more mid-back because the lats just don't have a lot of line of pull in that position. Middle. That's what middle fucking means. Now, there is a dumb fucking row variation that got popular by all the lengthened partial stretch position dipshits, where instead of doing a row here, you stay hunched over and you do this. You don't pull the shoulder blades back. And they're like, oh, it biases the lats in a stretch position. Fuck that, okay? If you want to work your lats, work your fucking lats. Do a pull over, do a proper pull down. I'll show technique tips for that in a later video. If you're using rows, work your fucking entire back. For God's fucking sake, stop following internet fitness industry dipshits. Let's say you can only do one back exercise, for whatever reason. What would it be? What movement that I just demonstrated would hit the mid-back and the lats at the same time? It's any row with your elbows by the side. And also I'd add, if you do use like an undergrip, then you're getting biceps. If you did only that one movement, here, properly, you get mid-back, lats, and biceps. That could be, in premise, your singular movement. So that's basic back. And I'm only going to be focusing on rows. So let's get into the first major technique error people make. Okay, here's a simple fact. Most people's row technique sucks. Because they go too heavy because they're trying to train their ego and their dick and to impress their idiot friends. And that's why they have no back. And that's why they, the same way Mike has no tan and has no pro card, these guys have no back. But what they say is, wow, all I do feel from rows is in my arms. It's kind of the back equivalent of the benching with the pecs video. People are like, oh, I don't feel my chest when I bench, shoulders and triceps. I only feel my biceps when I do rows, and that's because they do them wrong. Because what they do is they use too heavy of a weight. And they're doing this. Their shoulders aren't really, they're doing kind of that, but they think they're not, right? They're just doing that movement. To involve the mid-back in a row, your shoulders must first move forward, and they should end backwards with chest high, shoulder blades pinched together, right? Shoulders, you can see my scapula folded forwards, shoulders, boom. Not this. If you're hunched over, you're doing it wrong, right? If your row looks like that, either you never learned to do it right, or more likely it's too heavy. Because what you'll see in sets is it'll start properly with the chest high, and you'll see boom, boom, and then it starts to get heavy and heavy and heavy and heavier. By that point, you're not working your mid-back. Your arms are getting a great pump then. Shoulders forward, chest high, shoulder blades back together. That's key. And if you can't do that, it's too fucking heavy. And one way to teach that, because it's the back is hard to see. That's why people don't train it. 80 sets for chest, 5 for back, because fuck the back. Right, because they can't see it. For many people, that movement is hard. The shoulder blade movement. And one way to train that is to do pure scapular retraction. I'll do another video on shrug backs. How I used to train beginners, I'd have them on like a Cybex row machine, and I would teach them what I call a shrug back. Shoulders start forward, and they would go shrug, shrug, row. Because they've never done this before. And I would put my fingers between their shoulder blades and go to show them how to pinch. Always ask permission before you touch someone, guys. Always. Pinch their shoulder to show them that. Row, shrug, shrug, row. There's also a timing thing. I don't want to get super detailed into this. Like in premise rowing, you could go shoulder blades, arms. You could technically go arms, shoulder blades. Ideally, the elbows should pass the torso as the shoulder blades come together. So shoulders forward. They initiate with the shoulders. They initiate, boom, right? You see how it hits at the same time. It's not that. It's not that. It's boom, That should be proper row. Your chest should stay high, right? Here. And I'm not going to get into whether or not your torso is leaning forward. That's how Arnold, fuck that. We're talking about basic technique, right? Shoulders should go forward. And by the way, don't relax at the front. You're still maintaining tension here, because otherwise you tend to overstress the shoulder girdle. They stretch forward. Your shoulder blades roll forward. Initiate with the shoulders. Pull, pull, pull. Boom! They hit at the same time. Got it? And that's true whether you're, regardless if you're doing elbows higher, you're doing here, right? From a V-bar position or under grip position, shoulders are forward. Shoulders, arms, boom! Chest high. If you're here, you're doing it wrong. Because I'm not getting any mid-back. My shoulders aren't moving. You're getting a great bicep pump, and you might impress your idiot friends, but you're doing it wrong. Chest high. Boom! Head up. Chest high. Get it. Squeeze. That's mid-back and lats if elbows are here, and mid-back if it's there. Got it? Drop the weight about 20%, because I guarantee you most of you are doing it wrong. Do it that way. Hold for a second in the back. Squeeze your shoulder blades like your life depended on it, and then come back to the comments and go, wow, first time I fucking felt my back in a row. Lyle is right. 3 favorite words. Let's move on to one detail that I don't know that I'm the only one who's ever talked about it, but I don't think I've ever seen anyone else talk about it. Let's talk about the shoulder scoop. Okay, so I talked about what happens at the shoulder blades. I talked about the importance of letting them roll forward to a stretch but still tight position, not relaxing, and how they should pull back. And that's a critical part of mid-back, but there's something that I'm going to talk about next, again, I guarantee you've never seen before, and that's the shoulder scoop. Now, there are 3 different primary row variations, which are horizontal, whether your elbows are here, high to low, like a hammer high to low row, which is here. And again, you'll see it with a slight undergrip, which is almost a pull down, but it's still scapular traction if you do it right. You also see low to high, or the old Yates row. The Yates row, the low to high position is different than what I'm going to describe here. What I'm mainly focusing on here is a horizontal row of any sort and the high to low row, because there's a error that occurs in terms of what's going on with shoulder mechanics, which I call the shoulder scoop. So first, let's look at just the standard V-bar shoulder scoop. Okay, so I already showed you, again, on horizontal rows, the key. Shoulder stretch forward and back. But I want to talk about the scoop, because one thing you often see, and we can, some physical therapists can correct me, in people that over tight traps, or also weak lower traps, tight upper traps, their shoulders do some funky things. And what you see is, even as they're rowing, either their shoulders start high and stay high, or they do this. And some of that is technical. If you're using a V-bar row and pulling to your chest, you're doing it wrong. Your forearm should be parallel to the floor, right? If you're doing a V-bar row like this, that's wrong. You can see my shoulders elevate. V-bar row is here. Undergrip row is here. T-bar, like elbows high, is here. It's not here. It's not here. Because if you were to pull to here, my shoulders go up, right? You can see it. But even irrespective of that, people still often do it wrong. So you're here, right? My shoulder blades are relatively neutral, but they're elevated a little bit. Like, they're not here, but they're not there. And as you start to pull, you should scoop, as your shoulder blades move back, you should scoop them down and back, which involves the lats in scapular depression and lower traps in scapular depression. And it should look like this. Scoop. You see how my shoulders, like you can see it on right there on my closet, right? There's a thing you can't see because my shoulder's in front of it, and watch what happens. See how that line shows up? And they can elevate on the way forwards. Like, you're not keeping them down the whole time, you know? You stretch forwards, scoop. And here's what it looks like from the back. So again, shoulders forward, maybe a little bit up, down and back. A scoop, shoulders high. Relax, down and back. And at the extreme, what you'll see is that even if people are doing it right, and their shoulders will elevate, and they won't feel it the same. Again, it's whatever. Like I said, the physical therapist, it's because, upper traps are tight or lower traps are, it doesn't matter. A row is not this. A row is not that. A row is down and back. Same thing, even with the horizontal grip. Down and back. Angle, 45 degree. Scoop, down and back. And you'll feel it. You'll feel your lats fire, actually, by doing down and back. So that's the horizontal row. Shoulder blades start forward and maybe neutral. And shoulder blades scoop down and back. Boom. Let's move on. So the final thing I want to talk about is how that happens on a high-low row. Like again, like I use the hammer high-low row. Starts here and pulls that away. And again, there's some variations on that. You know, under grip would be a little bit more biceps. There's one here. A hammer machine's really, it's like I said, it's a pseudo pulled. I use the one that's here. And I actually think that's an underrated movement, the high to low row, because lower traps in most people is desperately underdeveloped. Upper traps is always overdeveloped, either because they do too many shrugs or they just, you know, their posture is bad. Don't get in my shit about posture in the comments, guys, because I'll fight you on it. And I'll be right, at least up to a point. So, like, I like the high-low row for a lot of people for that reason. And I've actually used it to fix some shoulder problems, because often rotator cuff is due to the shoulders being held in the wrong position. Bring it up. I'm not talking about you must have a hammer high-low row machine. It's any row that starts from a higher position, ends at a lower position. The mechanics are the same regardless of what you're doing. I don't know if you're doing tubing or set up some dumb shit movement where you're standing on one leg in a B stance or whatever. Not a buffalo stance. That's something completely different. The oldsters will get that, right? It doesn't have to be the high-low row machine. The mechanics simply need to be any rowing movement that starts with the handles higher and ending lower. So don't get hung up on the fact that I have access to a cool high-low row machine, and I'm cool enough to know how to use it properly. So, primary technique, right? Here, shoulders are starting forwards, stretch but tight, initiate with the shoulders, boom, mid-back, right? And that's, the line of pull is really more like that. And you'll see, you know, elbows are kind of here. Some versions get your elbows lower, relatively more. It's really kind of a 45 degree. But again, the scoop is key, because now you're starting with your shoulders elevated. And what you don't want to do is that. The shoulders scoop down, down and back. Down and back. Chest stays high, boom. You stretch forwards and up, down and back. Can you see that? Again, watch that little line in my closet. It disappears. And it reappears because my shoulders are moving down and back. Here's what it looks like from the back. So incorrect, first, shoulders high, forward. Well, either you get that, no shoulder movement. You might get that with the shoulder blades come back, but it should be scooped down and back. High to low, scoop down and back. Chest high, relax forward, up, scoot down and back. That's it. And then again, okay, briefly, the low to high row is different, because if you're pulling low to high, you can't scoop your shoulders down. It's wrong. Your shoulders will elevate. They should still come back, and they shouldn't, you know, go to your ears, but they probably start in a low position and end in a neutral or higher position, because it's just the nature. Right? If you're doing a Yates row, it has to come up. I don't use that one a lot. I don't think I've ever used that with anyone unless that's all they had available. So because again, I think people need proportionally more mid and lower trap work than they need upper trap work. So I just don't use that variation. Final thing before I demonstrate my cool ass doing a proper set of high to low rows. Chest position, I've kind of talked about this, right? Is when you're doing a row, like your chest, I mean, you're not really hunching over unless you're leaning forward. Again, not that variation. But at the back, importantly, chest high. If you're doing this, it's too heavy, because again, you're not getting, again, that starts to turn into this dumb shit, right? As you pull, actively lift your chest, look up, because regardless of people that insist on looking at the floor, your body follows your head. If your head is up your chest, you can't, it's very hard to do this. Chest high. Now what you'll see on a lot of people's sets is it'll start fine, and they'll be here, and like I said, as it gets too heavy, they'll start to do that. As it gets heavier, you must just force that chest up. Fucking actively just lift it to the flying spaghetti monster, whatever deity whatever. I shouldn't talk about this. Chest high. If your chest is low or you're hunched over, it's either too heavy or you just never learned how to fucking do it right. Let me demonstrate a proper set for y'all. So here's me doing a set of high-low rows for my diet. I apologize for the lighting is shit in the background. But what you mainly look at my shoulders, right? They go up and forwards and down and back. Squeeze, brief peak contraction to make sure I'm controlling the weight. Pausing at the top briefly. But again, focus on the shoulders, down and back. Also note that I'm actively looking up and lifting my chest. And even as it starts to get heavy and close to failure, I'm just exaggerating. Chest up, boom. Shoulders back, shoulders up and forwards. Chest high, done. That's it. And that's it. That's rows. Try those things at your next back workout. Significantly lower the weight. Maybe 20% is not even enough. That's a guess, because you're probably going way too heavy. Try 50% and get it all right. Regardless of the row. Start with the cable row. It's easy, right? Start with the cable row. Shoulders up and forward. Right shoulders start forward and neutral. And I want you to scoop and squeeze. Lift your chest. Squeeze like your life depended on it. Imagine something is between your shoulder blades, a walnut, and you're trying to crack it. That's how hard you want to try to squeeze. Try to get them to touch. They won't. And if they do, you've got a bigger problem than I can solve. That's how hard you should be squeezing. If you have a training partner that you trust, have them put their fingers, one on each of the inside border of the scapula. And as you come back, have them squeeze their fingers together to cue that, to teach you what you're actually trying to do. As you get tired, just exaggerate it. Shoulders down and back. Lift your chest. Look, like I said, look to the sky. Chest high, shoulders down and back. Shoulder blades squeezed together like your fucking life depended on it. As it starts to get heavy and you start to get tired, exaggerate it even more. Exaggerate that shoulder scoop. Exaggerate chest high, chest high, chest high. Squeeze! And then come back to the comments and say, Lyle, I wish I'd fucking listened to you 20 years ago, because god damn it, you know what you're talking about, and the rest of these talking heads don't. And they say Lyle is right, because I love to hear it, even if I don't read comments. Oh, and with few days left to go to Christmas or whatever non-denominational holiday you celebrate, let me remind you of one more thing. Okay, unrelated to this video, let me remind everyone that through the month of December, you can use the coupon code Mike Has No Pro Card at my store.bodyrecomposition.com, which you can see on the screen and in the notes. With that coupon code, you will get 15% off of any of my products. That includes my books, that includes consultations if you want me to tell you how to live your life. It will stack with the multi-product discount. It will not stack with any other coupon codes. Again, coupon code Mike Has No Pro Card. 15% off everything at my store through December 31st. So get it while the getting is good. Finally, for the record, on these videos, I do not read comments. I do not respond to comments. I do not care about the comments. I don't care if they're good, bad. If you put a question, tough. I'll never see it and I'll never answer it. What you can do is send that question to me at questions@bodyrecomposition.com. But let me be straight. With 99.9% certainty, I won't open it, I won't read it, and I won't respond to it. If you want to get a response from me, or some other smart person, join my Facebook group. There I'll answer questions, and my group has tons of brilliant people. But again, I don't care about comments on YouTube or Instagram or anywhere else. Hate me, like me, think I'm a moron, it's all good. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be right. And I am. That's all. See you next time.